Well, Fiji's former Prime Minister Frank Bainimarama is tonight behind bars after having his convictions upheld. We spoke to reporter Lice Movono.
Well, the court basically ruled that the earlier sentence or lack thereof made by the magistrate's court was an error in fact and an error in law. And so the acting Chief Justice, Lice Movono, sent Frank Bainimarama, Fiji's former prime minister, to 12 months in prison, and Siti Veningiliho, the man who was Bainimarama's police commissioner, spends two years in prison. So it's quite surreal scenes in Suva today, Beverley.
Indeed. Take us back to what the actual conviction was for.
All of this have come about because of the work of the faculty and students at the University of the South Pacific. For years, they saw mismanagement. They saw what they thought was abuse of office on the part of senior officials and leaders of the university, and they applied pressure for something to be done about it. And so finance staff, clerical staff at the university filed a police complaint in 2019. However, just over a year later, in 2020, Frank Bainimarama, while he was Prime Minister, instructed Siti Veningiliho, the police commissioner, to halt these investigations. He made those attempts twice, and so he copped an attempt to avert the cause of justice charge. Siti Veningiliho, for his part, was charged with abuse of office. Both men had been acquitted in the magistrate's court in October of last year, but of course, state prosecutors appealed that acquittal and got a conviction from the High Court. Now, the High Court had directed the lower court magistrate to follow through with the conviction and sentence the two men, but the magistrate didn't do quite as good a task of following those instructions and discharged their convictions and gave them, no sentence on the part of Frank Bainimarama and a minor fine for the police commissioner. Today, all of that was quashed, and Frank Bainimarama and Siti Veningiliho will tonight be spending their first night in prison.
Did Frank Bainimarama have anything to say at the end of this?
Beverley, he didn't. His lawyers did, however, indicate immediately after the sentence was handed down his intention or his need to get bail for the two men today and keep Frank Bainimarama out of jail. However, the Chief Justice was having none of that and sent them on their way. We do know, however, though, that the end of these High Court proceedings means that appeals already filed by Bainimarama's lawyers in the Court of Appeal against the conviction and now against the sentence will carry on. So we have not seen the last of Frank Bainimarama yet.
Indeed, but tonight they are in jail. He was such a popular figure. What sort of reaction has there been in Fiji?
Well, there was quite a lot of visibly sad people. There were fans of his and members of their political party in tears and singing church music outside of the court today. His wife, Mrs. Bainimarama, was visibly upset immediately after the sentence was read out in court and outside. The same for Frank Bainimarama's children. So there are a lot of sad people around, but by equal measure, Beverley, there are a lot of people very happy, people who have been calling for Frank Bainimarama to answer to numerous charges. And so Bainimarama is tonight in prison, and I understand it's at the Korovo prison, which is just on the peripheries of the Central Business District here in the capital, Suva. But we are going to be seeing more of him in court, but now as a convicted criminal and an inmate.
Very interesting. And of course, you know, he's had a long political life. Do you think this is the end of it? As you say, the story is not over yet.
It's most definitely not the end for Frank Bainimarama, because the Fiji First Party did hold a press conference several hours after the sentence to say so, to say that Frank Bainimarama will lead the Fiji First Party from behind bars. But Beverley, as we talked about in an earlier interview, he cannot contest national office now that he is a convicted criminal. However, he's still a very popular man. He did poll much higher, substantially significantly higher than every other candidate in the last 3 general elections, including even ahead of the current Prime Minister, Sitiveni Rambuka. So while technically, we know this is the end of the road for Frank Bainimarama as long as he is carrying a conviction. We are not likely to see the last of him anytime soon.
Yeah, the end of his influence. Good to talk, Lice. Thank you so much.
Yunaka, always a pleasure.